During her party, my mom sneered. "You're not getting a penny, you've always been a letdown." I smiled, sipped my drink and said, "That's okay. I'm leaving the country for good." Her face dropped instantly. The champagne had that unmistakable expensive bite to it. Of course it did, because my mother, Patricia Hendris, would never serve anything less than top shelf for her 60th birthday. The ballroom she'd rented at the Riverside Country Club shimmered under crystal chandeliers, with every table covered in soft cream silk like something out of a lifestyle magazine. About 200 people floated around the room, laughing too loudly at her stories, toasting to her supposed accomplished life. I stood by the bar, halfway through my second glass of the stuff, watching her command the room like some self-appointed monarch finally receiving her due. My older sister, Vanessa, drifted past me in a pale blue dress that probably cost more than I make in a month. She didn't even glance in my direction. We hadn't exchanged a single word in 3 years, not since the day I refused to lie to her husband about where she'd been that Tuesday night. In my family, betrayal was negotiable, but honesty? That was unforgivable. "Berta." My mother's voice cut through the noise, smooth but sharp as ever. She beckoned me over with that perfectly manicured hand of hers. I set my glass down and walked toward her circle of admirers, her garden club friends, the tennis ladies, and my Aunt Linda, all looking at me with that same mixture of judgment and pity I'd come to expect. "Everyone," Mom said brightly, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "This is my youngest daughter. Berta works for some little nonprofit, isn't it, dear? Something to do with homeless people? Community outreach and housing advocacy," I answered evenly. I'd learned long ago not to bite back in public. "How noble," she said with a laugh so rehearsed it could have been recorded. Though I keep telling her she wasted that expensive education I paid for. She could have been a lawyer like her father wanted, or at least married well like Vanessa. Instead, she's in that dreadful apartment in Brooklyn scraping by. The group tittered politely, and I felt the heat rising in my neck, but I kept my face calm. Mom took a leisurely sip of her martini. "We were just talking about estate planning," she said almost casually. "Linda was asking about my will. I told her not to worry about you, Berta. You're not getting a cent." She paused, her eyes gleaming with that familiar cruelty. "You've always been such a disappointment." I'd heard it all before in a dozen different forms, but this time, here in front of her audience, it landed differently. Maybe because I'd finally stopped caring. I reached for another glass of champagne from a passing waiter and took a long, slow sip, letting the sharp bubbles sting my tongue. Everyone was watching, waiting for me to wilt, to beg for forgiveness, to play my usual part. Instead, I smiled. "That's fine," I said lightly. "I just came to celebrate, and to tell you I'm moving abroad for good." Her face froze. "What?" "Amsterdam," I said. "I accepted a position with the International Housing Coalition, Director of European Operations. I leave in 3 weeks." The color drained from her cheeks. Aunt Linda gasped, and one of Mom's tennis friends murmured something about how far away that was. "You can't be serious," Mom said, her tone faltering. "That's halfway across the world." "Actually, it's about 3,600 miles, I replied. "I checked." "But when would you even visit?" she asked, voice shaking now. I shrugged. "I probably won't. The job involves a lot of travel projects in 12 different countries. I doubt I'll have much time for Connecticut." Her hand trembled slightly as she set down her drink. "This is ridiculous. You're doing this just to spite me." "No," I said calmly. "I'm doing this because they offered triple my salary, full relocation support, and a chance to make a real impact. Your opinion had nothing to do with it." For once, she didn't have a comeback. Her polished facade cracked like thin glass. "Berta, don't be impulsive," she said, her voice small now. "Let's discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "The contract's signed. My place is sublet. I've already said goodbye to the people who actually matter." I glanced around the stunned circle. "I just wanted you to hear it from me before you saw it on LinkedIn." That's when Vanessa appeared, clearly having overheard. "You're really leaving? Just like that?" "Just like that," I said. "This is unbelievably selfish," she hissed. "What about Mom? What about family obligations?" I almost laughed. "Family obligations? That's rich coming from you." When's the last time you called me, Vanessa? Or are we still pretending I don't exist because I wouldn't cover for your affair? Her face went crimson, and several of Mom's friends exchanged uneasy glances. How dare you, she whispered. I dare because I'm finished, I said evenly. I'm done pretending this family is anything but a performance. I'm done being the scapegoat. I'm done chasing crumbs of approval I never asked for. You're being dramatic, Mom snapped, the social mask now completely gone. You've always been too sensitive. No, I said softly. I've been patient. Too patient. I spent my whole life trying to figure out why I was the problem, why Vanessa was perfect, why Dad never looked my way, why your love always came with strings. Your father and I gave you everything, she barked. Private school, college, that semester abroad. You gave me things, I said, cutting her off, but not the one thing I actually needed. And I'm done waiting for it. Aunt Linda cleared her throat awkwardly. Maybe you all should. No need, I interrupted. I'm leaving anyway. I've got dinner plans with real friends, ones who actually care. I started to walk away, but something made me glance back. For what it's worth, Mom, I said. I hope you have a beautiful birthday. I hope you enjoy your perfect life, your perfect daughter, and your perfect country club crowd. I hope it's everything you wanted. Her voice cracked as she said my name. Berta? Don't worry, I said quietly. I'm not angry anymore. I wasn't angry anymore, I was just finished. There's a big difference. I walked out of that ballroom with my chin up, feeling oddly steady for someone whose whole family had just imploded in front of 200 witnesses. My hands trembled as I stood outside waiting for my Uber, but not a single tear came. I'd already cried enough for Patricia Hendris to last a lifetime. The next few weeks blurred together. Boxes, forms, and endless rounds of goodbye drinks with the people who had become my real family. My coworkers threw me a going-away party at our favorite dingy bar in Williamsburg, complete with dollar tacos and cheap beer. Marcus, my best friend, spent hours helping me dig through 10 years' worth of clutter, laughing at old photos and insisting I keep the good memories and toss the rest. Mrs. Sean, my sweet landlord, hugged me tight and made me promise to email from Europe. My phone, meanwhile, wouldn't stop ringing. Mom called 17 times in that first week. I didn't pick up once. Vanessa left a series of hostile voicemails about how I'd broken the family apart. I deleted them before she could finish her first sentence. Dad finally texted. Asterisk, your mother is very upset. Can we talk? Asterisk, I replied simply, asterisk, we can. But my decision stands. Hope you're doing well. Asterisk, what they didn't understand, what they never would, was that this wasn't some impulsive act of rebellion. The decision had been forming for years. That birthday party had just been the moment the last piece clicked into place. The truth had been building since childhood. I was 8 when I first realized I wasn't like Vanessa in the ways that counted to our parents. Her middle school graduation was the first clue. She'd done fine, nothing spectacular, but Mom beamed like she'd birthed a prodigy. A few days later, I came home clutching my report card, straight A's for the 3rd year running. Mom gave it a quick glance, smiled politely and said, That's nice, sweetie. Can you set the table for dinner? And just like that, the pattern began. Through high school, Vanessa made varsity cheerleading her sophomore year, even though she could barely keep time with the music. Dad left work early to watch her first game. When I made the debate team as a freshman and went on to win the state championship, neither of them showed up once. Too busy, they said. Work. Vanessa's college essays needed attention. When I got into Princeton with a partial scholarship, Mom's first reaction was, Well, that's going to be expensive. Wouldn't you be just as happy at the state school? Meanwhile, Vanessa picked a tiny liberal arts college in Vermont with a reputation for partying and a sky-high acceptance rate, and they paid her full tuition without hesitation. Princeton became my escape. Away from the comparisons and quiet dismissals, I could finally breathe. I threw myself into academics, volunteered at a homeless shelter in Trenton, and found my purpose in housing policy. For 4 years I got to just be Berta, not the other daughter, not the disappointment. Just me. But every time I went home for holidays or breaks, the old patterns waited like a script we couldn't stop performing. Vanessa would gush about her sorority's charity events, and Mom would beam. I'd mention the research project I was leading on affordable housing, And Dad would immediately pivot to asking if I was dating anyone. When I said no, his glance toward Mom said everything neither of them needed to speak aloud. After graduation, I moved to Brooklyn and joined a small nonprofit called Community First. The pay was laughable, but the work mattered. We helped families avoid eviction, connected them to housing resources, and pushed for better city policies. My boss, Rita, a sharp, no-nonsense Puerto Rican woman who'd fought her way out of the projects and into law school, saw something in me that my parents never had. "You're going places, Berta," she told me during my 6-month review. "You've got the passion and the brains. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I wanted to believe her, but that nagging voice in my head, the one that sounded just like my mother, never shut up. It whispered that I was wasting my education, that I should have gone to law school or found a husband with a better income, that I was noble but naive, and that I'd never be anything worth bragging about. Meanwhile, Vanessa married Robert, a hedge fund manager from one of Dad's golf buddies. Their wedding probably cost more than I'd earned in 2 years. I was included as a bridesmaid but had no say in anything beyond the dress I was told to buy. During the reception, I overheard Aunt Linda tell someone, "At least one of Patricia's daughters turned out well." She didn't realize I was standing right behind her. But the real breaking point came 6 months before Mom's birthday bash. I'd spent 2 years leading a project that would secure permanent housing for 50 low-income families. After countless meetings with city officials and investors, we finally closed the deal. And it made the local news. The New York Times even ran a short feature. I called Mom right away, excitement bubbling in my chest. Maybe this would finally be the thing that made her proud. "That's wonderful, dear," she said, sounding distracted. "I can't talk long. Vanessa's coming over with the kids and I'm making dinner. But good for you." 90 seconds later, the call was over. She never asked for details, never mentioned it again. 2 weeks later, Vanessa posted on Facebook about volunteering at her kids' school bake sale. Within minutes, Mom commented, "So proud of you. You're such an amazing mother and giving person. We raised you right." I stared at that comment for 20 minutes, watching as old family friends piled on with hearts and praise. No one had liked or commented on the housing project article I'd shared days earlier. Not a single person. That's when it clicked. That's when I opened LinkedIn and started replying to recruiters' messages I'd ignored for years. That's when I started picturing what life could look like far away from people who'd never see me clearly, no matter how much I achieved. The job in Amsterdam kind of found me, honestly. A headhunter named Jennifer reached out about an opening at the International Housing Coalition. They were searching for someone with real-world experience, someone who understood both the policies and the ground-level work, who wasn't afraid to take a risk on an unconventional path. The interview process stretched over 3 months. Video calls with different team members, a formal presentation on my ideas for global housing reform, and reference checks that apparently went very well. When the official offer came through, I sat in my cramped Brooklyn apartment and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was relieved. Someone somewhere had finally looked at me and said, "Asterisk, you're exactly what we've been looking for." Asterisk, not in spite of my choices, but because of them. I didn't tell my family right away. I wanted to protect it, keep it safe from their dismissive comments or half-hearted congratulations. The first person I told was Marcus. We met for cocktails in the East Village, and I slid the printed offer letter across the table. He read it, his eyes widening. "Berta, this is huge. This is holy. And look at that salary. Please tell me you're taking it." "I'm taking it," I said, grinning. He let out a whoop loud enough for the whole bar to notice. "My best friend is moving to Amsterdam to become an international badass. I'm so damn proud of you." Those words. Asterisk, I'm so proud of you, asterisk, from someone who meant them, who saw me for who I really was, nearly broke me open. I hadn't realized how much I'd been starving for that kind of recognition. "I have to tell my family," I admitted. "I keep putting it off." Marcus, who knew the full messy history, just shook his head. "You don't owe them anything. You could just leave. Send a postcard from the airport." I'd thought about it, believe me. But a part of me needed to say it to their faces, to show them I wasn't bluffing, that I was really building a life on my own terms. Mom's 60th birthday party felt like the perfect moment. I rehearsed what I'd say with Marcus, imagined every possible reaction. But I hadn't anticipated her blurting out the cruelest truth she'd ever said aloud. "You're not getting a cent. You've always been a disappointment." And doing it in front of a crowd. As if my worth could be measured by inheritance money. As if she wanted witnesses to my supposed failure. The anger that hit me wasn't loud or fiery. It was cold, sharp, and pure. In that instant I finally understood, nothing I ever did would be enough. Not Princeton. Not the housing project. Not devoting my career to helping people. She'd made up her mind about me decades ago, and no amount of proof would change it. So I told her about Amsterdam, calmly, without asking for approval or even waiting for her response. Just a simple statement of fact, the way you'd inform someone that your flight time had changed. The drive home afterward felt surreal. I kept replaying the moment when her face cracked, when the mask slipped and I saw something close to fear underneath. She'd gotten used to me being the nearby disappointment, the daughter she could criticize and control. The idea of me living across an ocean, beyond her reach or her commentary, clearly terrified her. Good, I thought. Let her feel a sliver of what I'd felt for 28 years. Dad called the next morning while I was packing up my books, deciding what to donate and what to take. "Your mother's beside herself," he said without even saying hello. "Hi to you too, Dad." He sighed. "Berta, this is serious. She barely slept. She's acting like you're running away to join a cult or something." "I'm taking a high-level position with an international organization, not joining a cult," I said. "You know what I mean. So far away. And you didn't even discuss it with us first." "Why would I?" I asked. "I'm 28 years old. I don't need your permission." "Of course not," he said quickly. "But we're your parents. We should have some input." I set the book down. "Dad, when have either of you ever had supportive input on my life? Name one time you encouraged a decision I made." Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "You've spent my whole life either ignoring my choices or quietly undermining them. So no, I didn't ask for your input. I don't need it. And honestly, I don't want it." "That's unfair," he muttered, though even he didn't sound convinced. "Is it?" I asked. "When I got into Princeton, Mom complained about the cost. When I chose nonprofit work, you both acted like I'd thrown away my education. When I moved to Brooklyn, you acted like I'd relocated to a combat zone. Tell me, at what point have you ever actually supported me?" "We support you," he said weakly. "No," I replied. "You support the version of me you wish existed, the one who went to law school, married someone from the country club, lives in Connecticut and gives you grandkids to show off. You've never supported me." Another long pause. Then he said quietly, "Is this really what you want? Amsterdam?" "Yes," I said. "More than I've wanted anything in years." "Then I guess there's nothing more to say." "I guess not." He hung up first. I wasn't surprised. Dad had always avoided conflict, letting Mom control the emotional climate of our family, while he hid behind work and golf. His silence had enabled her cruelty just as much as if he'd joined in. The last 2 weeks in New York flew by in a haze of logistics. Exit interviews, farewell dinners, endless forms. On my final day at the office, Rita pulled me aside. "You're going to do amazing things over there," she said. "But promise me one thing." "What's that?" I asked. "Don't lose that fire. Don't let them turn you into someone who's polite and cautious. The world needs people who give a damn. And you give more of a damn than anyone I've ever met." I hugged her tight. "Thank you for everything," I told Rita as we hugged goodbye. "Thank you for seeing me." She smiled softly. "Honey, you're easy to see. Some people just choose not to look." The day before my flight, Mrs. Chun invited me upstairs for tea. Her apartment smelled like jasmine and ginger, warm and familiar. She poured from a delicate ceramic teapot, watching me with those sharp, knowing eyes. "This move is good for you," she said, not as a question but a truth. "Yes," I replied. "Your family, they don't appreciate you." I shouldn't have been surprised she knew. Mrs. Chan noticed everything. "No," I said quietly. "Not really." She nodded, her face calm and wise. "When I was 25, I left China. My parents were furious. They said I was abandoning family, bringing them shame. I came here with 2 suitcases and fear in my heart, but also hope. She fixed her gaze on me. You have hope. Yes, I said. I do. Her smile deepened. Then you will be fine. Better than fine. Sometimes the family we need is not the family we are born into. You understand? I did. Marcus, Rita, Mrs. Chun, my coworkers at Community First, they were more my family than anyone I shared blood with. The next day, as my plane lifted off, New York shrinking beneath me, I felt something inside me uncoil. Years of trying, failing, and trying again. Years of striving for impossible approval, of swallowing disappointment until it became part of me. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I felt it all begin to fall away. I wasn't just escaping anymore. I was moving toward something. And that distinction mattered. The thing about being the family disappointment is that everyone expects you to crash and burn. They picture you crawling back, apologizing for dreaming too big, for daring to exist outside the mold they built for you. They expect your life to fall apart without their validation. What they never expect is for you to thrive. Amsterdam was everything I hadn't known I was missing. The work was demanding but deeply fulfilling. My new colleagues treated me as an equal, valued my ideas, and respected my expertise. Within 2 months, I'd led a project that provided homes for over 300 families in 4 cities. William, our Dutch director, pulled me aside afterward and said I was exactly the kind of innovative thinker they'd been searching for. The scale of the work was staggering. Negotiating between governments, NGOs, and private developers across Europe, but it thrilled me. My first big assignment took me to Prague, where a redevelopment plan threatened to evict hundreds of residents. I spent 3 weeks there, meeting with city officials, holding community forums, and helping forge a compromise that preserved affordable housing while allowing construction to proceed. When I came back, William called it the kind of diplomatic success this organization needs more of. I rented a narrow canal house with slanted floors and huge windows overlooking the water. It had been built in the 1600s, and it creaked like it remembered every century. My upstairs neighbor Saskia, a jazz singer with a voice like smoke, practiced at odd hours but made up for it with homemade stroopwafels. Across the canal, an elderly woman named Mafro waved to me every morning from her lace-curtained window. Within a month, I knew more of my neighbors than I had in 3 years in Brooklyn. I bought a bicycle and rode it everywhere, even when it rained. There was something freeing about pedaling through narrow streets at sunrise, the city yawning awake around me, the scent of fresh bread drifting from bakeries, the soft chatter of cyclists, the reflection of light rippling on the canals. It felt like a life I'd watched in movies but never believed I could live. I started learning Dutch, badly but enthusiastically. My coworkers found my attempts hilarious, but they appreciated the effort. I practiced at the cheese shop down the street with a patient woman who corrected me gently while explaining the nuances of Gouda. Struggling through those conversations humbled me in a good way. It reminded me that starting over didn't erase my worth. I built friendships quickly. Saskia brought me into her circle of artists and musicians, people who debated philosophy and politics deep into the night, slipping between Dutch and English so I could follow along. No one asked about my family or salary. They cared about ideas, about meaning, about making the world a little less broken. I felt seen in ways I hadn't in years. I dated some casually without pressure. A graphic designer named Lars took me to an avant-garde play that made 0 sense but was stunning to look at. An environmental lawyer named Sophie, and I went out a few times before deciding we were better as friends. It didn't hurt. Here, I wasn't trying to earn love by fitting into someone else's expectations. 6 months after leaving New York, Aunt Linda found me on Facebook. Her message was short. *, your mother fell and broke her hip. She's been asking for you. She's at Greenwich Hospital. *, I stared at it for a long time. Part of me, the small, desperate child I used to be, wanted to book the next flight home. But another part of me, the woman who'd stood in that ballroom, remembered every humiliation, every dismissal, every moment I'd been made to feel lesser. I sent flowers instead. Expensive ones. The card said, * wishing you a speedy recovery. Berta. * mom called from the hospital. This time I answered. You sent flowers, she said. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Older. I did, I said. But you're not coming home. No, I'm not. Silence filled the line, sterile, heavy, punctuated by the faint sounds of hospital machines and rolling carts. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for the quiet. I don't understand you, she finally said. I'm your mother. I'm in the hospital. I know. I'm sorry you're hurt. I truly hope you recover fully. But I'm not coming, Mom. For the first time in my life, I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy. I have work that fulfills me. I have friends who celebrate my success instead of belittling it. I have a life I built on my own terms. Coming back would compromise that peace. So, you're just going to abandon me? I closed my eyes. You told me I was a disappointment at your birthday party, in front of everyone. You said I wasn't getting a cent, like money was what mattered. You've spent my entire life proving I'll never measure up. And now you want me to drop everything because you need me. I'm your mother, she repeated, as if that explained everything. You are. But being a mother is more than biology. It's showing up. It's supporting your kids even when their choices don't mirror your own. It's loving them without conditions. I heard her breath catch. For a second I thought maybe she'd apologize, that maybe she'd finally see it. But then she said, "You're being cruel." No, I'm being honest. There's a difference. Vanessa's there. She can help you. She's always been the daughter you wanted anyway. Vanessa is, Mom trailed off. She's going through something. She and Robert are separating. I wasn't surprised. I'm sorry to hear that. She could use her sister right now. Then she can call me herself, though I doubt she will. Vanessa doesn't know how to connect without resenting people for it. I wonder where she learned that. You've become very hard, Berta. I've become very honest. Again, big difference. I glanced at the clock. I have to go. I've got a meeting in 20 minutes. Take care of yourself, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. My hands shook, but I felt lighter somehow. Closure doesn't always mean forgiveness. Sometimes it's boundaries. 3 weeks later, Vanessa called at 2 in the morning. I was half asleep when I answered. Mom's home from rehab, she said. She needs round-the-clock care for another month. I can't do it alone. I have the kids, and Robert's being impossible about custody. I sat up, switched on the light. What do you need from me, Vanessa? I need you to come home, or send money for a nurse or something. Hire a home health aide. Mom has good insurance and more than enough savings. She won't let strangers in the house. Then she'll have to adjust her expectations. My tone was gentle, surprisingly so. Look, I'm sorry about Robert. Really. But I can't be your solution. Or Mom's. We're a family, she said, her voice cracking. That's supposed to mean something. It does mean something. It means I want you both to be okay. It means I hope you heal. But it doesn't mean I set myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. I don't understand how you can be so cold. I'm not cold. I'm surviving. Do you even know what it was like being the lesser daughter? Every achievement I had got a polite "that's nice, dear," while your mediocrity got treated like genius. Every mistake I made proved my flaws, while yours were brushed off as bad luck. I spent 28 years trying to be enough for people who'd already decided I wasn't. Silence. Then Vanessa said softly, I didn't. I mean, I knew Mom was tougher on you, but I didn't think. You didn't think because it was easier not to. Being the favorite's comfortable. Questioning why there has to be a favorite. That's not. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't need words. I just need you to understand I'm not coming back to fix this. Handle it however you need to, set boundaries, hire help, but leave me out of it. I hung up before she could argue. The months melted into a year. I got promoted. My project expanded into 6 more countries. I fell in love with a Belgian architect named Thomas, who made me laugh and never made me earn his affection. We moved into a bigger place near Vondelpark. My phone stopped ringing as much. Mom sent a belated birthday card. It just said, Happy birthday, Berta. Hope you're well. No signature, only her initials. I tucked it away and didn't dwell. Aunt Linda kept me updated anyway. Mom recovered well. She'd hired a kind home aide named Carmen, who stayed on as her companion. Vanessa finalized her divorce and started therapy. The kids were adjusting. Life went on, both theirs and mine. Sometimes it stung. When I got promoted. When I published a paper. When I fell in love. Moments when I wished I had a mom who could be proud. But I learned to sit with that ache without letting it hollow me out. I learned to accept the gap between what should have been and what was. 2 years after I left, I was in Copenhagen for a conference when I saw an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, Asterisk from Patricia Hendris. Asterisk, my finger hovered over delete, but curiosity won. Dear Berta, it began. Asterisk, Carmen helped me set up this email. I'm not very good with computers, as you know. My therapist suggested I write to you, it might help. Yes, I'm in therapy now. Vanessa pushed me into it after she started going. We've been doing something called family of origin work. It's uncomfortable. My therapist asked me to think about how my own mother raised me, and how that shaped the kind of mother I became. This isn't an excuse, but maybe it's an explanation. Asterisk, my mother was cold and exacting. Nothing I did ever seemed good enough. I swore I wouldn't turn into her, but I did exactly that, maybe worse because I told myself I was doing it for the right reasons. I said I was toughening you up, preparing you for the world, refusing to coddle you like those so-called modern parents. But the truth is I was afraid. You were always so open, so sensitive, so determined to make the world better. And I worried it would crush you. I thought if I could make you stronger, harder, more like Vanessa, you'd survive. Instead, I pushed you away. I broke something in us that I'm not sure can be fixed. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to come home. I just need you to know that I finally see it. I see what I did, how I made you feel, and I'm sorry. You were never the disappointment, Berta. I was. If you want to write back, you can. If not, I'll understand. Mom. I read her message 3 times, then closed my laptop and went for a walk along the harbor. The sky hung low and gray, and the water churned restlessly, mirroring the heaviness in my chest. An hour later, Thomas found me standing by the railing, wind whipping my hair. Bad news? He asked softly, slipping his coat around my shoulders. No, I said after a beat. Just unexpected. I told him about the email, and he listened without saying a word, his hand warm against mine. When I finished, he asked, What are you going to do? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to ignore it. Part of me wants to believe her. And part of me doesn't trust any of it. All of that can be true, he said simply. I leaned into him, exhaling. How'd you get so wise? Therapy, he said with a grin, and a patient mother who taught me people are messy, but worth trying to understand. I didn't respond right away. I let the wind and the sound of the water fill the silence. I didn't write back that night or the next. I let the email sit like a pebble in my shoe. Small but impossible to ignore. I brought it up in therapy, unpacked every reaction, every conflicting feeling. Weeks later, I finally opened my laptop. Mom, thank you for your email. I appreciate your honesty and your apology. I can't say it fixes everything because it doesn't. There's too much hurt, built up over too many years, and words can't undo that. But I do appreciate that you're trying to understand, that you're taking responsibility, that you're doing the work. Takes courage to look inward like that. I'm not ready for visits or calls. Maybe one day I will be, but not yet. For now, I'd be open to occasional emails like this, small steps. I hope therapy continues to help you. I hope you're finding peace. I'm happy here, truly happy. I hope knowing that gives you some too. Berta. After that, we wrote every so often. Short messages, simple ones. She told me about her garden. I told her about a project I was leading. She sent pictures of her remodeled kitchen. I sent photos of tulip fields and canals. It wasn't deep, but it was something safe, polite, cautious. 3 years after I'd left, Aunt Linda died suddenly. A heart attack. I flew home for the funeral, my first time in Connecticut since that disastrous birthday. Mom looked smaller, frilier. Her hair had turned white, but she still wore it perfectly styled. She leaned on a cane when I approached her after the service. Berta, she said quietly. You came. Aunt Linda was good to me, I said. We stood there, awkward and still, Vanessa hovering nearby. You look well, Mom said at last. Happy. I am. I'm glad, she said, and I could tell she meant it. Will you stay long? Just through tomorrow. I have to get back. She nodded slowly. Would you come by the house? Just for coffee. No expectations. I hesitated, then agreed. The house looked exactly the same, but it felt different. Carmen greeted me warmly, saying she'd heard all about me. We sat in the sunroom, sipping coffee from the fancy china. Tell me about Amsterdam, Mom said. Really tell me. Not the short version. So I did. I told her about my work, the people we'd helped, the changes we were making. I told her about Thomas, about our apartment, about learning to cook dishes from our neighbors. I told her about feeling like I finally belonged somewhere. She listened the whole time. No interruptions, no corrections, no comparisons. When I finished, she took a long breath. You did what I couldn't, she said softly. You broke the pattern. You refused to live a life that made you small. You chose yourself. She paused, her voice trembling. I'm proud of you, Berta. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you. The words I'd chased my whole life. They didn't feel triumphant, just sad. Sad for all the wasted time. Sad for the version of us we'd never get to be. Thank you, I said. We finished our coffee. I hugged her goodbye and promised to stay in touch. The next day, I flew back to Amsterdam. Thomas met me at the airport. How was it? He asked. Bittersweet, I said. But okay. And it was. That's the thing about healing. It rarely looks like a grand reunion or tearful forgiveness. Sometimes it just looks like okay. And sometimes okay is enough. I still live in Amsterdam. My career's thriving. Thomas and I got married last spring in a small ceremony by the canals. Mom sent flowers. Beautiful ones. The card read, * wishing you every happiness. I mean that. Love, Mom. * we email once a month now, sometimes more. Our relationship isn't what I dreamed of as a child, but it's the one we're capable of now. And that's enough. I learned something along the way. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't have to stay small just because it makes other people comfortable. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who refuse to see it. The best revenge isn't spite, it's peace. It's building a life so full and true that no one's approval could make it richer. I'm not a disappointment. I never was. I became exactly who I was meant to be. Someone who chose herself when it mattered most, who walked away when staying would have broken her completely, who learned to take up space in a world that once told her not to. And across an ocean, in a city of water and bicycles and tulips that bloom every spring, that truth finally feels like home.